about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a shifting conversationalist, empowering connections, and rewriting the rules of parenting and leadership. No other than Miss Katherine Sellery. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Catherine. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. It's great to be here, and I appreciate you having me on your show. So, I founded the Conscious Parenting Revolution about 25, 27 years ago. It's been a while. When I started having kids, I started understanding that I just didn't know how not to fall back on just what was done to me or how I was raised, and that I wanted to be able to do more than that. I wanted to be able to have a bigger palette than just my own experiences as the kid growing up and what we could call the resentment flows that existed, and to be able to do the greatest service to my relationship with my children possible. It was opening up Pandora's box. So I've spent decades becoming more deeply acquainted and understanding communication patterns and family dynamics, and coaching parents to support them to be able to have the very best relationships with their kids possible.
The very best indeed, Miss Catherine Sellery. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. How do you define an emotional trigger in the context of parenting or leadership?
Yeah, so emotional triggers. We've all been triggered. We all know that experience of someone saying or doing something that really activates a huge reaction in us. And some of us are overt, and the whole world knows when we're in an overreaction. And some people are covert, where they don't show it. And on the surface, they look a certain way, but internally, they're having the same experience as an overt overreactor. So whether it's overt or covert, it's just a different way of either being more transparent or less transparent about what's happening internally. And when we are triggered, it's something, an event that catalyzes a pre existing condition. So you could say that in the moment, this event that I'm responding to is the problem. But if you really break it down, it's not really the issue. It's the catalyst that has allowed us to reconnect with the part of us that experienced something similar to this dynamic previously. And that part is still looking to be able to um, have some kind of resolution. It's a super
Resolution.
dynamic, yeah, it's a super dynamic experience for everybody, I think, who's listening, and yourself. When you're in the midst of something where you're like, well, hold on a minute. My response to this stimulus is much bigger than just this one event. In fact, if I think about it, I can change the face of the other catalysts in my life who seem to have catalyzed this same thing in me. And it's a pattern that pre-exists, that's being ignited again and again and again and again as we try to resolve it.
Miss Catherine, what are the most common emotional triggers for parents and leaders, like defiance, incompetence, and disrespect? Why do these scenarios spark such intense reactions?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it varies from person to person, but you can imagine that when we've had a certain program about what's okay, what's not okay. And we've learned to stay within like the confines of what as the child we learned was acceptable so that we would not experience what happens when we do the thing that's not okay. At that stage, we can form some really strong beliefs. And when we see someone else living into a belief that we were forbidden from living into, we don't have a balanced response anymore. It's not like, oh, sometimes I'm really good at something, sometimes I'm not. Oh, sometimes I'm able to speak up, sometimes I'm not. It's where one is the only one that's acceptable. You're only supposed to do as you're told. You're not supposed to speak up. So then you get a child who regularly speaks up and speaks out to you. And your response is over the top because they're living into a belief and a way of being that is dangerous from our own personal experience. It's dangerous. It was forbidden. So, we're walking the razor's edge, and when we're walking the razor's edge at that stage in life, sometimes I'm able to do this, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm able to be considerate, sometimes I'm not. And when you can live into both sides, you don't really have an overreaction when somebody else is not doing the thing they're supposed to do. So it has to do with these underlying irrational unconscious beliefs that we don't even know we have. We find out about them through our own irrational reactions, which are geared to get the other person to stop doing the thing they're doing in order to keep me safe. So there's a manipulation behind the overreaction to get the person who's catalyzing me to stop doing it.
Just stop doing that, people. Stop doing it. And what happens in our brain and body when we're triggered? And how this explain why we are lose control or default to reactive patterns?
So what's happening, in our brain and body is that, I guess you could call it the reptilian brain, but it's a safety program, right? It's a safety program. Everything that ever happens, every response we ever have is to keep ourselves safe. And all of our patterns of behavior, all of the accommodations, everything is always geared to keeping us safe. And it may have really done a good job at that. It may have kept us safe when we were little kids. However, we don't need the pattern anymore. Now we're full fledged adults and we're capable of having conflict, resolving it, having discussions, coexisting with people with different belief systems without going out of control. However, the visceral experience of the encounter is that, whoa, this isn't okay. And we, in our overreactions, become manipulative and abusive and holier than thou and self righteous and all of those things that show we call everybody we know, we try to make the other person wrong. So we can see when we're in overreactions by the way we're behaving. And it's also just not effective. It's not practical.
Miss Catherine, why are parenting and leadership especially vulnerable to triggering?
Mm. So, I think that, parenting is a type of leadership. And one of the things that we're doing when we're raising children is we're always the living example. We're always the one who is being looked to for the child to learn how to be, how to behave. And when we're in a leadership position, it's the same thing, right? People are looking to us or up to us to show, like, oh, this is how you handle conflict. Oh, this is how you handle things that are not smooth. Oh, this is how you, when you're disappointed, respond to a situation. So it's I guess you could just say amplified, because in any leadership position, you're always going to be looking to support everyone that's in your atmosphere, whether it's your kids or, people on your team, to be able to see, like, okay, well, this is how to respond to these kinds of things. And this is an effective way for us to communicate. This is an assertive approach. This isn't aggressive. It's not demeaning. It's not name calling. It's not making the other person wrong. It's being able to articulate our feelings and needs when we're in the midst of a behavior that we are experiencing is not taking into consideration enough of the people in the group. And we want to highlight that there are people whose needs are not being met through the behaviors that are going on. Does that make sense to you?
Makes sense, Miss Catherine. Makes sense. What practical techniques can help someone pause in the split second after trigger?
So, when we're looking to really calm ourselves down, we can't, I don't think we can walk through life and avoid all the landmines. They're going to show up. And I think as we start to do more and more consciousness work, we begin to recognize, oh wow, this is that thing again. It's arising yet again. Wow, I thought I was past this and I guess I'm not. So I'm getting another opportunity to be in the dance with this same pattern. And I guess like step one is recognizing, gosh, am I having an overreaction? Am I capable of taking practical steps? And if I'm really honest, am I in blame consciousness? Am I really lacking complete accountability for how I'm showing up right now? And the more that I can be really honest with myself and say, oh my gosh, I am so triggered. And I know this is all about me. I know that this catalyst outside of me has activated, I would call it, an unresolved trauma. And that this external event activated something in me that has given me a chance to attend to this part of myself and give myself the love and compassion and understanding and presence to be with this something just the way it is, holding the space to really attend to this part of me. So, getting bigger than what's bugging me and being grounded and having a practice that supports me at staying in that mind of the observer who can be observant of what's actually happening without being identified with it.
Miss Catherine, as a shifting conversationist, empowering connections, and rewriting the rules of parenting and leadership, what are your short term and long term goals?
So, um, the conscious parenting revolution has been, around for a couple of decades, as I said. And I think that for me, what I'm hungry to do is support parents at having the skills and accessing the skills to be able to create the family dynamics they want the most. In the work life balance world, it's so much that people have on their plates professionally, personally. Again, it comes down to the practices to be able to support having that observer consciousness. So I've been doing this through workshops, school systems, corporations, keynote addresses, all of that. My personal goal is to be able to amplify the message and access more and more families and more leaders to give them the support that they need to be able to have the fullest life possible in all of these venues. And I believe that usually that's about some skills and some practices to be able to stay centered so that we don't become overly identified with an emotion that's arising or a thought that's persistent, and to be able to have that capacity to be with it, turn toward it, hold space for it, listen in. What's it trying to accomplish? And this language that I'm using with you right now is that language to be able to have a healthy relationship and complete self acceptance. Because I think self criticism is popular. I think that, without this context, it's easy to become very um, hard on oneself. And with this context and the support that's needed to be able to make a transition to have complete and utter self acceptance and self compassion, allows our kids and other people in our corporate circles to see that they can do it too. It just builds in empathy, understanding, compassion, and all of that is sort of the elixir, I think, of life that makes it so much more rich when we can be with one another in our less than perfect moments with a deeper sense of understanding and graciousness. So I believe in that.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Catherine, and looking forward for more
Thank
success.
you.
And
Thank you.
what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
So sweet. So, there's, I think, something that in all of us wants to have a level of mastery right now.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that mastery isn't overnight,
Yes.
it's repetition over and over again using the new skill. It's getting back on the horse again after you mess it up. It's having the self acceptance to be imperfect and others as well. It's that grace of being able to say, I don't really feel good about how I handled that. Would you be willing to let us have a redo? Could we redo that conversation? I was not feeling good. I mean, not to make excuses, but I could just say my window was shut and I was so depleted. I feel much more rested. And I feel like if I had felt this way yesterday, I would have been able to show up in a way that I'd be proud of. Right now, I just like to let you know that I'm not feeling so good about how I showed up. And I sure would appreciate it if we could start all over again. I mean, those kinds of conversations are life changing.
Indeed. And thank you for your advice, Miss Catherine. And how does mastering our own triggers help children or teams develop emotional intelligence?
Yeah. So that process of being seen while we're experiencing something that's arising. So, you know, when we believe that other people make us feel, then we say that the catalyst is the cause of how I'm experiencing myself. The big shift to being able to say, oh my God, nobody makes me feel, but wow, that really catalyzed an experience in me. So there's a really big difference. And with that difference, there comes a lot more accountability, a lot more empowerment, because when we take our power and give it to other people to make us feel good or make us feel bad, when we give our power away to other people and make them responsible for my experience, I'm not even there anymore. And an empowered, compassionate, considerate leader is someone who's accountable for their own behaviors. And a child who sees that level of accountability also begins to live in and say things like, I think I made a mistake. I'm not feeling good about how I showed up in school. I spoke to somebody the other day that, it keeps bothering me. I'm going to go talk to them about it. There's just, it's life changing.
Life changing indeed, Miss Catherine. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season and Movie 101 review in fourth season, as well as my music 101, Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. And please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Catherine, what's one practice you urge every parent and leader to adopt to transform triggers into opportunities for growth?
I'm a firm believer in meditation, and so I would really support everyone in recognizing that when we're in the big self, our higher state of consciousness, when we have developed that big sense of who we are no longer identified with the small problems, which gives us the freedom that we need to be human. And so, those centering exercises, breathing exercises, meditation practices are crucial. And that would be my advice: is if you don't have a practice, it would be life giving for you to have one.
Crucial indeed. And can you recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Yeah, I would say that one of the most important authors was Alice Miller, The Drama of the Gifted Child, and her articulating the dynamic when a child grows up with a parent who has not attended to their own emotional needs and is basically requiring that child to reflect back to the adult, the mom, the dad, the caregiver, how they're feeling constantly. So rather than the child being able to develop that sense of, oh, so, this word is given to me by the parent, it seems like you're feeling sad. Oh, wow, it looks like that's causing you some anxiety. Then that's the parent who's actually providing that feedback to the child to allow them to separate and individuate and learn how to, healthily take care of their inner world. So that book to me helped me really understand how hard it is on kids and the actual dynamic that's happening when they're being cathected by the adult caregiver.
Miss Catherine, thank you so much for your recommendation. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or whatever you're doing right now?
Thank you so much. So it'd be wonderful to have you join the Conscious Parenting Revolution community and go to Conscious Parenting Revolution. And if you would like to get my free book, go to freeparentingbook.com and you can download my Amazon bestseller, 7 Strategies to Keep Your Relationship with Your Kids from Hitting the Boiling Point.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Katherine Sellery because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering parents to come. Miss Catherine, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your
so
time.
much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
More to come, people. See you soon.